We are back. New York City Baseball, past, present, and future. I'm Ralph Tyko with the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. One of the hosts of the show is Marty Rose. He's present.
How do you do, everybody?
How you doing, Mert?
Very well, very well.
Good. Back in Jacksonville, your little trip went well?
Yes. Saw my new granddaughter a little while ago, and actually my wife is still there. She should be back in a couple of days. I'm bacheloring it for a while, which is nice.
She's kind of your granddaughter's healthy.
Oh yeah, she's great. She's doing excellent. She's about 12 weeks now. Yep.
Yeah.
Way to go, Granddad.
Yeah.
And that well-wisher is a returnee to the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network as a guest. And I go back, we figured out 28 years when I knew you and your dad in Medford, Oregon.
You're shaving a few years off again, Ralph. It's 1984. We're going on year 33. Ralph's shaving years again. Ralph's shaving a few years off the point spread there.
Yes, well, you got to pad it a little bit. If I were from the
pad it a little bit. That's great.
If I were from the Dominican, I'd still be 28 years old at this moment.
Oh boy.
So, padding it now. I got to meet you when I was the Tops rep in the Northwestern League. It was Medford. We didn't talk last time you were on. One of your teammates was Rod Beck. I don't know. And he was later traded to the Giants for Charlie Corbell. That's if I'm not mistaken. And Rod Beck went on to terrific relief pitcher with the Giants.
Outstanding.
Rest in peace.
Yes, indeed.
And I got to spend the afternoon with your dad and look at the game from a scout's standpoint. And he taught me so much. We reminisced about one of the things he taught me was that not to just sit, and you brought this up and reminded me, a scout shouldn't sit behind home plate and have that be the only angle he sees the prospect, or whomever he's analyzing. He should go to different parts of the ballpark, catch him at different angles, and look at him up close from far back, get a perspective of how much ground he's covering in the field, and all of that. So to me, that was incredibly interesting. And Mert, he asked me at the end of the day, as Jim was taking fielding practice, he said, who does Jim remind you of? And I said, Tony Kubek. Tall.
See, I should have gone into radio and TV. I could have done the game of the week.
Hey, all three of us, the should-haves and would-haves in this business. Bert and I
love that. I love that comparison, Ralph. It's just today. If you were in a game with a young scout, and the young scout would say, "Who does that remind you of?" and you said, "Marty Marion or Tony Kubek." Well, they would say, "Oh," and then they'd run off and hide and pull out their phone and Google search who those people were and go, "Oh yeah, you're right. Sure."
That's right. But Marty Marion, same kind of build, and really good ball players. You got hurt. Elaborate on your injury a little bit.
I really got hurt, like I told you last week. We talked about it. I was really, now you got to remember, in that day, believe it or not, we call it that era, the pre-draft physical was not like it is today because the money wasn't like it is today. So I really waltzed into the draft with a frayed ligament in my elbow and some shoulder tenderness, and then tried to play through it. And then once I got a few weeks into the season, when I couldn't stretch my arm or open my hand because of the tingling, I tried to push through into the month of July and finally went to my manager, Dennis Rogers, and said, "Hey, Skip, I can't do it." And he goes, "I know you're hurt, but I know you've been gutting it out. So I'll tell you what let's do. Why don't you stay here with me because I think you got a good mind for the game." So I stayed. You know, that's a pretty big, I don't know, gesture, favor, or gift in today's game to say, "Hey, farm director, Mr. Carl Keel, can he stay here because he may be a good instructor for us one day?" That doesn't happen today. If you get hurt, you're going home.
Recommendation.
So, and he's one of the, Dennis is one of the, that you think about the mentors in your life. I talk a lot about that when I do some motivational speaking. Can you name me 5 mentors in your life, excluding family members? And it's hard when you reflect back on life, how you've gotten somewhere. And Dennis was one of the originals. So, and that's how that happened. Today, I would have probably not been drafted because I would have flunked the pre-draft physical. So. Not that the A's would have saved a lot of money. I mean, they would have saved all the $2,000 I signed for because I just wanted to play. So
yeah, but the point is, a career would not have gotten started. What would
a career would have gotten started because I didn't sign out of high school because I was drafted in the teens rounds by the Pirates, but I wanted to go to college. I wanted to get that under my belt.
You were in good shape. College was already under your belt. You didn't have the pressure that a lot of kids coming in. Remember, when a high school kid is drafted, back in those days, now they make provisions for their education, but you have to make a choice when you sign. And if you make a choice to sign, and boom, you cut, you're forever not an amateur. And it ruins any chance of going to college. And you have to make that decision based not only on the kind of aptitude you have for studies, but you have to make the decision based on I'm a high school kid now and my body is this way. What's it going to be like 4 or 5 years from now? How is it going to develop, and will it develop? And the scouts have to make that same projection on the kid as the kid is judged against other kids. It's not how the kid is now, am I right, Jim? It's what you project the kid is going to be down the road. Isn't that the essence of scouting?
Yeah, and that's correct. And, as we speak right now, my thoughts and my hopes go out to all my friends in the industry because this evening is day 1 of the Major League Baseball amateur draft. It's going on currently as we speak. And I will say this to the fans. The fans, sometimes we in life just take for granted all the talent and so forth when we go to a major league game. And then those true fans who spend time in the minor league park watching the players come up, those diehards. But if you could imagine that you had worked 360 days prior to this and you convened in your major league stadium if you were invited to attend the draft, and all the work came down to 72 hours and you had no control over the situation. That's what the amateur draft is like for the scout.
Yeah. So you're just sitting there and higher-ups are making, and some that you
It's not that so much as that we're the only sport, as I know, that we can't trade draft picks.
Right.
So it's like you get what you get. So it's a lot of homework, it's a lot of background, it's a lot of holding your breath when it's time for your team to take a pick. you would like to get your player, but the big picture is you have to take the best player for the team. I was fortunate to sit through a lot of good drafts and, be around some good quality scouting directors, and it's a very tough time.
Jim, I was wondering, I was looking at the beginning of the draft. The first two kids they picked are high school kids. Now, do these teams have a list of one list of high school and one list of college kids, or is it all one list together? Because to me, a college kid is going to need less time in the minors, you would think. A high school kid is going to need a lot of time. So
It all depends, Marty, on the individual club's philosophy. So, the 2018 draft search is in the initial phases during this year because the scout is paying attention to the junior this year that's going to be a senior next year, of course. Possibly even the sophomore if he's doing his homework to get a nice follow list for subsequent years. The 2018 draft search, the bell will ring sometime in the next 2 weeks for next year's draft. And once you're done with this draft and you go and sign your players, you will start attending summer showcases regionally, sometimes nationally. You know all the Under Armour Classics and certain games played in Wrigley and San Diego and the area code games in Long Beach, and you'll have scouts in Cape Cod looking at colleges, and you'll be all the way through. Basically, the last scout day, I think, nationally has always been University of Miami, and it's always been right before Thanksgiving. You'll spend that time over the winter sending out player information forms, medical requests, fill this form out, give me some background, contact information, can we get your medical records in? You start compiling all the data on the players in your area. And literally, for those in the baseball states, Texas, Georgia, Florida, California, there's really only possibly 2 to 3 weeks of downtime. That's through the holidays, because once the new year starts, practices, or junior college in Florida actually starts mid to late January. And off to the races you go, preparing for the first, or what used to be the first Tuesday in June. You're preparing for the draft, and then it becomes a race. And it's like anything else, so I can relate to those listening. It's always tough when the race is over to come down from the race. And you've been racing now for 11 months, and now you're in the draft room. And I guarantee you by Friday there's going to be hundreds of tired people out there because the adrenaline rush is over. And that's how it evolves. So to answer your question, Twins pick one. Darren Johnson, the scouting director, you'll like this one, Ralph. I managed in 1988 in his rookie season. DJ's got a great run as an amateur scout and now scouting director, and has had great trainers, great teachers. Not surprising at all to me that the Twins probably took one of the best athletes out there that they can sign and get him reported into Fort Myers, get him on the field, and get him playing. So certain clubs have certain philosophies. Certain clubs are going to say we're not going to take high school, or we're going to take college, or ownership says we need something sooner than later. The Twins are notorious for taking players and giving them time to develop. And that's kind of in the nutshell.
Jim, this is a Met show, and you were in their organization. Did you scout for them as well?
No, I was strictly on the field as a minor league manager.
Okay, but you got an appreciation for what their philosophy was at that time. Was it under Phillips? Was he the GM?
Well, at that time, you had Joe McIlvaine leading the charge, and you had Roland Johnson as a scouting director, Jerry Hunsaker as player development.
Okay.
Being raised the way I was raised, I spent as much time with the amateur scouts as I could at organizational meetings to find out who they liked for the following year, to get to understand their language. And when they all had to send reports to me of the players they drafted, strengths and weaknesses, they thought I would pick up the phone and call them and talk to them. How do I talk to this guy? What's his hot buttons? What do you think we should work on from your perspective? I really valued the scouts' opinion because I knew what they were doing the previous 11 months because of how I was raised. So those were, those were the Jeremy Burnitz days for those Met fans out there.
Yeah.
I remember, I think Al Shirley, maybe if I recall, does that name ring a bell to the Mets fans out there? I guess. I'm trying to go back in time and remember some names.
There was a Shirley with the Dodgers coming up when we were kids, Mert.
I'm not sure how high Bill Pulsifer was chosen, but I had him. I managed him one year.
Okay. My question would be, how did the organization that the Mets, that you were in with the Mets, because it's totally different under Alderson, I'm sure, but how did that compare to the Twins organization that really makes sense? You draft a guy, you follow him and develop him and all of that. How did the Mets do it the same way? What was their philosophy?
Roland Johnson was a very, steady as she goes, leading the ship type of scouting director, and it was really the player with the most tools. I came there in 1989, and it was still tools-based, run, throw, hit, field, hit for power, et cetera. You had to look for 5 tools, and you graded them, and then you ranked the board accordingly to the tools. And whoever the best player was, when it came your pick, you were decided as a unified group on this guy's got the best tools at this pick. So in that area, late 80s to 90s, a lot of clubs were still that way. It wasn't until we had that shock in the system of, Moneyball that system of tools was kind of shocked, as I call it.
What works best from those new stats, the new age stats, and or the Moneyball thing? What works and what doesn't work?
Well, as I said before, I think from the scouting standpoint, statistics. What was the old saying? Remember, there are 3 types of liars: a liar, a damn liar, and statistics. That was the old scout line. That was an old scout line.
Statistics don't lie, statisticians lie.
Statistics are all relevant per what level you play. I wanted to know inside the statistics, from a scouting standpoint, when I was scouting, what questions I would have to answer by the veteran scouts that I would call in my mind a statistic. So I always tried to see the high school player as a hitter face the best pitcher. And the best pitcher in the county or the area faced the high school team with, I thought, the most potential next level hitters, either college or pro ball, to see how he handled himself. There's really no reason for me to go. I saw Prince Fielder play 3 games and never saw him have an official at bat. He was intentionally walked 12 times. So, to answer your statistics
where
question,
did you get that thought? That is such an ingenious thought that the kids are going to have to move up. You might as well see them against the best competition they're going to play. Did you get that thought from your dad?
I basically got it because you remember my career was reversed. I started on the field and then went to scouting. but I was raised in the house of a scout, so I took my reports I wrote as a coach and manager very serious. I just didn't say grade this, 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 and this. You know, he's going to be a nice second baseman. No, I wanted to give a picture because I felt the scout who signed that player deserved that due. And it was just my opinion, but I felt if I really drew the picture, it gave the scout something that he knew that I cared. But being on the field, especially from 94 on when I was at AAA as a hitting coach, I tried to look inside the stats, and I really was tough on my hitters with the best arms. So I could try to create what I call the velocity, a current velocity threshold. I remember doing this in the first spreadsheet I ever tried to design or ever heard of. I didn't know there's such thing as a spreadsheet in 94 and 95. But we were in Indianapolis, for example, and we'd go play certain clubs, and the pitching was AAA pitching. It was, you know, AAA pitching is always fringe big league. I'll call you up for a day, send you back. But we'd go to Buffalo, and we'd face guys like Jared Wright and Albie Lopez and Alan Embry and these guys with plus-plus fastballs, and I had a chance to grade my hitters against big league pitchers. So I created my own statistics, which allowed me, for example, and I won't mention the player's name because he's currently a major league hitting coach, and I'm very close to him, but at that time, he had more or less of a speed threshold. He couldn't catch up to better velocity. And I knew it. I knew where it was. And when the general manager, Jim Bowden, called me and said, is he ready to go up? The first question I asked, I said, where's he going and who's he facing? And then when he told me he's going to go to San Diego and face A, B, and C, I said, call him up. Well, he hits a home run. After that, the velocity caught up to him, and then he was sent back. That's really what it is. It's stuff versus can you hit it? So the statistics of the on-base percentage and how many pitches he sees, I think that is all minutia, in the kindest word I can put it. It doesn't tell me a thing. Why would I be concerned about a guy who's got an on-base percentage that's really good in rookie ball when some of the kids have a hard time finding the strike zone? I think stats are only important at one level, and that's the level you see on TV. Because, you know, statistics are used in arbitration cases, et cetera, and so forth. Other than that, I wanted to know what the guy was doing when he was 0 for 3 in the fourth at bat. I want to know what he was doing against better velocity, better pitching. I want to know what the pitcher was going to do when the umpire blew a call, the guy made an error. Was he going to pout, sulk, or was he going to get out of his own mess? So that's a different type of statistic. You know, what is the guy made of?
Do you follow the game? Do you follow the game today? Do you follow, for instance, the Mets today?
I watch when I can. I see the Mets. I've seen a lot of their players over the last few years, either in the minor leagues covering or in winter ball. So. You know, and Jay Bruce was one of our draft picks when I was with the Reds in 2005. So
he's pretty good defensively, Jay Bruce. Am I right? He knows what he's doing out there.
Jay Bruce was an outstanding high school center fielder with phenomenal bat speed and a plus arm and a good loose live swing. I don't know what that parlays to in the statistical world, but he was going to be a guy that you could look at and say he's going to play 10 years in the big leagues, probably end up moving to a corner and, you know, drive in runs and hit home runs.
Which he has.
You know, I got an interesting story for you. And I always say these things in all due respect to the people I work for. During the time Jay Bruce was drafted, management in Cincinnati said, we're going to impose a rule that you can't hit until you have one strike on you. You see where I'm going with this?
Right.
They were trying to increase the percentage of pitches seen so we could get into the bullpen, which seemed to be a weakness in some study or whatever. Why do I want to get to a bull? You think I want to get to the Yankees bullpen? You think I want to get to some bullpens, we see today where the game is over? Or you were allowed to hit with runner in scoring position. If you broke that rule, you were taken out of the game. And this is a true story. I was at Ed Smith Stadium watching Jay Bruce, talking to him and so forth. I did not, sign him. I knew him. I talked to him through the scout that signed him. One of my greatest friends of all time, Brian Wilson, who tragically passed away no more than about a few weeks after that draft at the young age of 35. Another story. So Jay Bruce walks up the home plate and gets the first pitch belt-high fastball at Ed Smith Stadium in the backfields at Ed Smith, and the batting cages are in right field on field 4 and hits the top of the batting cages. Now, nobody on base. First ball fastball hits a home run, comes to home plate, and I thought, my gosh, what is the staff going to do? The coaching staff. The coaching staff took him out of the game because he broke a rule.
Wow. Whoa, indeed.
Then wait, it gets better. The manager asked Jay, said, you know the rules. You got to take a strike unless there's somebody in scoring position. Jay Bruce's line. When I walk the home plate, I'm in scoring position. When he said that, I laughed till my jaw hurt, and I said, well, we've taken one of the best talents in the country. Now, you got to remember that draft, 2005, an absolutely phenomenal draft. I thought we were probably going to take McCutcheon instead of Bruce. It was that close. And I laughed so hard, and I said, here is God-given talent being restrained so we can work on statistics. Later throughout that year, I'd have scouts walk up to me and say, hey, I'm having a hard time grading your hitters because they're always taking pitches. 2-0 fastball right down the middle, they got to take a strike.
Right.
There's a background for a little bit for the fans in New York, for a little bit of Jay Bruce, but where he's coming, where he is. So
yeah. Well, he's a terrific guy.
He's a good guy. Am I right?
He's outstanding. I mean, he's just an outstanding kid. It was to go back to a sad story, and I'll give this 2 minutes. Brian Wilson was the scout. Brian Wilson played with the Reds in the Reds minor league system, then wanted to scout. Lived in Texas, had high cholesterol, tremendously high cholesterol for a young man, and stressed out a lot. And when Brian was, trained by all the way back to the lineages of Tony Lucadella, Hall of Fame type scout, and he knew a player, and he knew the player knew he could sign him. And the sad thing was that was Jay's, 2006, I think, when Brian passed, because he had signed as part of signing Drew Stubbs. So the following year, Jay Bruce is playing for the Dayton team, and Brian Wilson has a sudden heart attack and dies, and Jay almost wanted to stop playing for a while. And Jay drove from Dayton to Cincinnati as we honored Brian on the field before the game, and basically said, I'm going to play here because Brian said I would, and I'm going to play here as long as I can, and he'll never. It was just one of those moving stories. Jay's a down-to-earth baseball kid at heart, probably always will be.
How does a trade like that affect a player who comes up in an organization scouted by Cincinnati? You come up with your teammates, and all of a sudden, in the middle of the season last year, he's traded to the Mets. And the expectations in New York are incredible. He didn't sleep in his own bed for 6 days, 6 months. He was in a hotel. we forget players are not just robots; they're human beings, and just from a clubhouse standpoint, and how does it affect the clubhouse when they lose a brother like that?
It's it's not like Jay's first rodeo. I mean, it's 2016. He's over a decade past his draft, and he's done some great things and played. He's matured, and he understands. He understands at this point in time that he's a valuable commodity, and chances are he will be traded. So it affects him first. It affects the player whose name is mentioned. He wakes up every day wondering if his agent's going to call or if the front office is going to call and where am I going. Now there's a bit of tension. It's not a very comfortable time for that player. It's never a comfortable time in the clubhouse. The month of July is I would say a very uncomfortable, exciting time, if that makes sense, because clubs are looking to get better, and some clubs know, hey, buddy, I'll call you when you're in Seattle and I'm in Miami, for example. They know it's inevitable if somebody can come to a deal. So, but also for the player to realize it's exciting. I got a chance to go play in October. I got a chance to possibly go to the World Series. So it's very bittersweet what it is. It's also a time where the manager and the staff have to keep the ship going forward and stay focused on what they're doing. I always like watching the clubs who players are talking about being moved, how the clubs respond. It's not uncommon to see all of a sudden you're looking at 2 or 3 names mentioned on the same club, and all of a sudden they drop 7 in a row, and now it's worse than it was July 4th to July 10th to July 20th before the deadline. And it's worked. It can work both ways. Once that time is over, the club that loses the player, hey, this is our team. Let's relax and go play again. And the team that can't keep the ship going, they flounder for a while till they get righted again. The team that acquires the players, it's a new burst of energy. It's a different lineup, or it's a different bullpen, or it's a different rotation. And now we can see past the last day of the season, possibly into October. So it's an emotional roller coaster, is what it is, for everyone involved.
Jim, I come from a life in sales. I was in the insurance business. Your dad was a realtor. You're a realtor. How does the scouting skills, your baseball administration skills, how does that transcend to the business world?
I think everyone who puts a stopwatch around their neck or around their belt and writes out a lineup card, you have to have some aspect of selling in your personality repertoire, as I'll say.
Communication,
your communication skills, because I have to take 25 guys and I have to put them in an old clubhouse in Kingsport, Tennessee, or Pittsfield, Massachusetts, and I have to bring them together for a common cause. And they have to know that you guys do great, it's you. You guys don't do well, it's me. And I have to be able to sell the fact that I want to see their talent every day. From the scouts aspect, in today's game, I don't know of many players drafted, and you guys will watch this. I don't know of many players drafted today, the high school players that don't have a chance to go to college as a plan B. So you have to sell your organization, your development staff, You have to sell mom and dad that we are going to take care of them, and I'm basically becoming a member of the family. And
Right.
here's your college scholarship paperwork that we're going to provide X dollars towards higher education for X number of years. Please use it. Because, would I rather go, the old story of, you want to ride buses in the Sally League, or do you want to go to the University of South Carolina? And that's what you're competing against. There's also the unknown. In my business, in the real estate business, someone says, well, I'm going to wait and look to buy a house, or I'm going to wait and put my house on the market. Well, every day you wait costs you money. I don't have any control over the interest rates. I don't have control over the housing inventory. I don't have control over housing starts. If the time is right, I suggest now. And so for that player, I think you have to really, it's just like in selling. You build a relationship, you've got a sale. And that's how it transcends itself. If you, as a scout, are, of course, ethical, honest, and transparent on what you see, there are some houses you go into and some players you talk to and say, listen, I would love to draft you, but you're not ready. And then give the reasons why you think you're not ready. I'm doing this. This is how I get paid. How I get paid is to provide players for the major league team so fans buy tickets. And if I don't think you're ready, then I suggest you do go to Florida State. You're going to get bigger and stronger. You'll be away from home for the first time. You'll have a chance to adjust to, better pitching and so forth. And you know what? Probably by the time you're a junior, you may have a better offer than what I'm going to offer you. So you have to be able to be honest with it. If you really look at a player, Ralph, and you're scouting them, and you say to yourself, what is this guy going to do when he's playing at 12 o'clock or 11 o'clock every day in Florida when it's 105? Some of the guys are from around the world. Some of the guys don't even understand what he's saying. And everyone else is really good like he is. Do you think he can survive? Now, when I was a cross-checker for the East region, I used to ask the area supervisors, give me this number, 2, 3, or 4. The scale is 2 to 8, 20 to 80, however you grade players. Give me a 2, 3, or 4. On what do you think he's going to do when you sign him and he goes to the Gulf Coast League? 2 is he's going to struggle. 3 is he's going to do better than you expected. 4 is at the end of the Gulf Coast League, it ends early, he goes to the New York Penn League, gets a little promotion, gets a taste of some night, and he's going to be a 4, he's going to be a 4. And I'd say, take your emotion out of it. You're not selling me. Be honest with yourself. I've managed that level, and I've seen every 1, 2, and 3 all the way picks come through there and hit 150 for the first month. And most of the scouts will say, well, I think he's probably going to be a 3. He's probably going to hold his own and do a little better. Some scouts even say, if he's going to be a 2 for a while, he's really going to struggle. And then they would come forth and say, and I would say, why? Well, not a lot of coaching, not a lot of baseball experience. Okay, so let's be honest with it. And that's what you really have to be as far as a selling point. Anybody can go somewhere and go to a D1, D2, D3 and kind of stepstone up and go, all right, I arrived. But they're not facing, and this is what a lot of fans don't realize. Everyone thinks, oh, he's down there playing in the rookie league. You'd be surprised. The rookie league is more or less the international realm of baseball. So can you imagine being a nice high school player from a good program and you walk in the Gulf Coast League and the first week you're there, you don't see a starting pitcher with less than 92 to 94 miles an hour, and you saw that twice your entire high school time. And you're going to see it every day. You talk about a rude awakening.
That's tough.
So it's, you have to do some realistic selling. Right? This is what it's going to be. So do you believe in yourself? Then the player has to sell me back.
Some of these kids probably get a college deal thrown into their baseball contract if they don't make it. You know, as far as you want me to sign, well, you know, if I sign and I go to the minors and I don't make it after a couple of years, will you pay for my college as part of my bonus? I'm sure
I always offered it, Marty. It's a college scholarship program implemented, years ago. I said, where are you going to school?
Yeah.
I'm going to call my scouting director because it's a budgetary, almost insurance investment type plan. I'm going to give you X dollars to use or X semesters to use, and this is the amount it's going to be. However, you must use it in a window of time. In other words, 7 years while you're playing. And so if something happens and you're injured and you have Tommy John and a year off, I don't want to see you hanging around, I don't want to see you hanging around the drive-in and telling everybody how much money you have. You had better be using that scholarship money to take classes and get credits. And I would make them promise me they were going to do that. I don't want to hear any lip. Well, I just want to, can we have this as a backup? I said, well, yeah, but you got to realize this is a year-long sport. But you also have ways through online classes, et cetera, junior colleges, et cetera, to use these and gain what you need for life.
Yeah.
So, yes, I always included that.
Kid from Staten Island, where I lived for 32 years, he played baseball and football in high school, and he signed with the Royals as a catcher. After a couple of years, he just didn't make it. He wound up going to Wagner and was their quarterback for a couple of years. So,
well, yeah, you can do that because it's a different sport now. We can't.
Right.
You can play our sport professionally, but if you have a chance to play another sport as an amateur status, you can do that. Which, of course, we should do.
Yep.
I like drafting those kind of players because they were dual sport guys with talent.
Yeah, very good athlete. Yep.
Jim, last time you were on, I asked you the question because after I talked to you for a while, I just go, my God, how could baseball have let you escape? You gave me a wonderful answer, and it basically ends up that baseball is screwing the fans, and yet again, tell us how, Jim, and tell us what's going on in the world of baseball administration, and how you explained it to me. Explain it to Mert.
Well, again, Mert, I'll put it to you this way. I don't want to say that, that I'm not being politically correct, Ralph. I don't want to say baseball is screwing the fans.
Well, no,
that correct. I think that baseball. The thing that concerns me the most is for those keeping score. There's only one union in the sport, and that union is for those in the major leagues that qualify for union status. So every minor league coach and manager and trainer that has no major league service time, and every scout that has no major league service time, is almost an at-will employee, almost an independent contractor with no union protection.
No benefits.
Yeah. You have company benefits, you have a salary, you have expenses, some have company cars, there's per diems. You have all the coverage, but if something happens, you can't call your union chief. You're on your own.
Yep.
And Ralph, as I told you, last week, the thing that started concerning me was in 2014 when I saw the Dodgers regime change and almost 36 people were terminated. And I saw certain clubs do the same thing, and I kept tracking these terminations, and I noticed one thing that was glaring to me is that most of those terminations were over the age of 50. Now, not that I can say anything, not that I can prove anything, because you know what it is? If you're not doing the job, I don't care if you're 25 or 75. Someone thinks you're not doing the job, you're terminated. But what I couldn't understand was normally in the replacement cost value, especially in what is the replacement cost if you're doing a comparative market analysis? Is this home the same as this home? So I don't like this home. I'm going to eliminate it because this home is pretty close. Well, I noticed that many of these positions were eliminated and replaced with brand new employees, I'll say, or something of a non-comparable value. If you have scouted for 28 years and your contract isn't renewed, and you look up and a young man from the office who's 27 is now scouting your territory, is that an equal replacement value? And it concerned me as an industry, and the reason it concerned me in the big picture as an industry was a fan would never know this is going on. But right now, over the next few days, Major League Baseball is going to invest millions of dollars in its future. Fortunately, all the clubs still have valuable veteran members, but that veteran membership pool is much smaller than it was 5, 10, 15 years ago.
Which directly transcends to the fan not getting as good a product on the field.
So the fan needs to ask the question, barring any, unforeseen circumstance in the draft, otherwise known as an injury, I'm investing when I purchase season tickets in a company like I'm investing on Wall Street. What is your product? What is your research and development? How much money do you pour back into research and development so I know that your product and your concept stays on the cutting edge and everyone wants it? Research and development, as I told you, in the business world is the same thing as scouting and player procurement in baseball. It's research and development.
Right.
So there's many analogies you can use, and we all use them. We're all consumers. Some of us feel much better going to our trusted mechanic who's been doing it for 30 years versus going to the shiny new shop around the corner where everyone is my oldest son's age. And that's what, because we can always trade players like chess pieces at the major league level. We can shuffle the board. We can afford his contract. You can't afford his contract. We're going to move you some quote prospects around, and the fans will see at the surface. But down below is where the players come. They always rise to the top, the best ones. And that's scouting and player development. And that does take time, and it does take a lot of investment, and it does take a lot of experience on how to play the game.
And how to teach the game.
You have to teach the game. I think it's just not the scouts. It's just not the scouts, Ralph. It's teaching the game. And as I told you before last week, I spent most of my time with the oldest guys I could find, and I don't mean age-wise, the oldest guys with the most experience, the most tenure in the game.
Right.
Because I would hear how the game was played and what you were supposed to do and how you were supposed to hit infield and how you were supposed to run the game and understand the game so you could teach that to the player so the player could go play the game. It's not all about a 5-second highlight. I don't care what network it is. I can watch MLB. I can watch ESPN. It's become the 5-second highlight of this, this, and this. But I want to know what's going on in the game.
Good.
I want to know how many. How about this one, Ralph? The next stat I want to know is how many 3-up, 3-down innings there are today. I want to know why back in the golden age of baseball, which was, predominantly where all the massive Hall of Famers came from, you start talking Babe Ruth all the way through the magic era of the 50s, games lasted 2.5 hours. We weren't stepping out, and we weren't having commercials, and we weren't doing this. We were playing the game and doing, all right, you have to do this, you got to do this now. And that's how you were drilled. That's why when you look at the lineage of banners in stadiums, everybody thinks, oh, the Yankees go buy their World Series. No, they didn't. They drafted good players and they had crafty veterans teaching them. And you look at the Dodgers, it's always the same teams. You look at the Dodgers and you look at the Cardinals. Look at the Pirates.
Branch Rickey and yeah.
They all did the same thing. I mean, can you imagine what it was like when they hung string in the bullpens in spring training in front of the 6 bullpen mounds, when they hung strings across at the top of the strike zone and hung another string across the bottom, and then at the top of the strike zone inside the rectangular box, they put strings and dangled them and hung them down from the top string and had the pitchers throw inside the strike zone anywhere. And sometimes tried to clip the dangling string to hit the edge of the plate to give a visual picture of the strike zone. That must have been groundbreaking in those days.
Right. I think that was a pretty thing, if I'm not mistaken.
We talk about we got to build these complex systems. The Dodgers built a sliding pit so everyone knew how to slide.
Right, and they weren't scientific? Sliding face first, like Abner, what's his name? The guy on the Angels just broke his thumb.
No, like Mike Trout.
Yeah, Mike Trout, probably as high a valued a ball player around. Our advantages of being able to grab the base, this, that, and the other thing, but I wouldn't have that guy sliding face first anymore.
There was, we call them studies, but back in that era, at the turn, the turn for me was the 60s. The turn was, we had different uniforms. We were playing day and night games. We had TV. We had radio. It was a turn. The era had turned.
Mm-hmm.
So you would come to spring training, and you would go over to one of the instructors and slide. And if you couldn't slide a certain way, you were taught how to slide. And that included head first, feet first, double bent leg, hook slide, slide by the bag, reach around and touch the base. There were multiple slides you were taught. Now, can you imagine in today's game that you had to go through sliding class in spring training to learn the slides? And the best guys who could slide on both legs. Now, I know this sounds somewhat myopic in some ways of doing certain things, but that's how you train your players. It's the same way John Wooden taught basketball, or Dean Smith.
Right.
All the great coaches, or even Lombardi, everything was succinct by the position. So you go to sliding class, what side do you slide on? Right leg. Okay, we're going to teach you how to slide on the left leg. So you could break up double plays, so you could avoid tags, so you wouldn't be scouted as he only slides on his right leg, so he's going to slide it. No, all that stuff is broken down. Systematic training. Now again, I'm not saying it's not done today, but for me, it's not done today the way it was done then.
They'd be calling the union rep to complain.
calling the union rep to complain. Hey, they made me slide on my left leg today. I'm not going to do it.
I won't arbitrate.
I'm a right leg straight in slider. They want me to do some bent leg slide and hook the bag with me, and reach around. I can't do all that. I'm not doing that. I didn't sign up for that.
There you go.
Or better still,
but again,
the agent.
what is it? Hey, Ralph, what does it do? It goes back to the question you asked about selling. Everything I teach you makes you a better ball player and helps us win.
Right.
That's the art of selling. If I'm making you a better ball player, and I would say this to the guys in passing when I was coaching, if I can make you a better ball player, all I ask is that when you get there, you remember me when I want tickets. And I just kind of say, oh, yeah, sure, whatever. So I said, no, I'm being serious. I may have some friends or whatever. Just remember me when I want some tickets.
I used to say to the guys that I'd signed for the Topps contract, see you on a major league pass list. That's what I want.
Exactly.
I'll be there, have my name on it. And I had more than a few go to the major leagues.
You know what question I want to know, Ralph?
Yes.
If we're concerned about the development of the game from top to bottom, I want to know what the NCAA's role is and their relationship is with Major League Baseball with respect to the qualified scouts and player development people who are not employed, who should now be teaching the game at the collegiate level in any capacity.
Well,
that's my big question
Bobby
today.
Winkles see the exact opposite when big league ball went to Arizona State, I think it was, for Bobby Winkles, and brought him in. And now you're talking about having pro scouts or player development guys go to the college level. Just the exact opposite as back in the 60s. It's amazing.
Well, of course. You know why? Because today, unless a college guy has some pro experience and or will work for nothing, why would a major league team hire him? There's something called credibility. You're going to be the AA hitting coach. Where were you last year? Oh, I was the head coach at Creighton. Oh, well, we use wood bats. So in that era, you got to remember, during that early pre-draft and draft status, all the college coaches had been there for decades, and they all knew the scouts. And they all let the scouts have tryout camps at their universities, and they all worked together. And now I'm wondering if there's a division that's been created because we're going to make the college game, and the pro game. Well, if colleges want to make the system and the program better, why wouldn't you reach out and say, would you consider working for our staff or working on our staff from your perspective to give us a real life and give us some of your teaching and your experience to help our program? Or is the program like every other program? It's all about wins and losses and how many signals the college coach can give to the catcher and how many plays they can put on and how many, blanket approaches to pitching and hitting we can, share with the kids when we recruit them?
I have an idea. You know what? If colleges had wooden bats, it would cost them a whole bunch more money. That's their argument. Am I correct?
What's funny
Why
is
not
that
have the pros buy the bats? Why not?
I'm old enough, Ralph, to know that when I played Little League Baseball in Sarasota, Florida, and Vienna, Virginia at age 9 and 10, that I used a wood bat. There was no other choice.
Right.
And someone brought this, quote, metal bat one day, and it was like metal. It was metal. And it was a different feeling. And so now in the college level, we try to say, well, you can't have a 36-inch bat and 22 ounces. We've tried to cut down on, we've tried to make the bat more like wood. If Major League Baseball is a multi-billion-dollar industry, what would it cost them to fund first the top-tier D1 conferences with wood bats?
Great idea.
That's your question.
All right.
What would it cost Major League Baseball? And you've got thousands of bat manufacturers out there. You've even got bats that are designed not to break, that are composite bats, as wood bats. They used to call them bomb bats. It was a company, BAUM, Bomb Bats, and the company would always give about a dozen of these bats to the rookie leagues, Northwest League, whatever. So the kids who had not had it in their hands would take 1,000 hacks and it wouldn't break.
Right.
So
that's unfair in a sense because you don't get to scout the kid who's fooled by an inside pitch and is always hitting the ball. You don't get to scout him effectively because he can get a double off the handle of the bat.
Why do you think scouts will go to Cape Cod for a month in the summertime? I know scouts that live there or close that will go there and try to be in the Cape Cod League for a month because they use wood.
Right. Well, you say how much would it cost the major league team? If you're making better decisions, it wouldn't cost, it would be a plus. In other words, you have to spend money to make money.
Can you imagine scouting? And I thought about this when we were communicating via Messenger. I thought about this in more ideas. Can you imagine scouting and not having to ask yourself the question, I wonder what he's going to do with a wood bat?
Right.
That blows my mind.
Yeah, it would be so simple.
That blows my mind thinking, that's that's one of the biggest questions you have.
Right.
Because you go from a hitting surface of 18 inches to a little bit of a circle of about 2.25 inch on a sweet spot.
Hey, and you're judging pitchers too.
Exactly.
Based on, and infielders, ball's going to be hit a little bit harder with an aluminum bat.
It's amazing the difference of spin between wood and aluminum.
I didn't even think about that. The spin, of course.
It's an entire. A hitter can take a full swing and hit a ball just below the trademark. And if an infielder doesn't realize and have great vision reaction where the ball was hit, he's that much late getting his jump and the charge play and the runner is safe. And he's going, well, he doesn't have good range.
What
he's just now adjusting to a wood bat league.
What a selling tool to a kid coming out of high school to at least the kid will know in the first 2 years whether or not he's going to make it. I mean, not, you can't say that either, but whether or not he has a shot, or he thinks he has a shot, which is basically all it is. It's in your head anyway. So imagine going through school for 4 years with an aluminum bat, and you come out, you go into the pros, and you can't adjust to the wooden bat, and you're gone within months. So
well, let me ask you guys this. So we learn how to ride a bike, and we have the same bike for 18 years. And someone gives us a new bike. Oh, we think we can ride a bike. Oh, wait a second. This bike is different. This handle's entirely different. I can do this, this, and this. I'm going to need some time to adjust. It's not those formative years. Kids today pick up an aluminum bat from the day they get rid of the wiffle bat until they're drafted. Can you imagine doing the same thing with a couple of hiccups for 18 years with the same type of aluminum bats? And someone puts a Louisville Slugger in your hand and says, hey, we're having a workout, do this. I have honestly seen this. I have seen kids take a wooden bat and hold the trademark in the wrong spot. The object was to take the trademark, and the trademark should look at you. So when you, and not forward, it can be a slight forward. So I'm a right-handed hitter. So the trademark is looking at me. My right hand is on the top, is above my left, and I'm looking at the bat. The trademark's looking at me. So when I come down wrist up, wrist down, I'm at the sweet spot of the bat away from the trademark. You know how many workouts I've done where I go, timeout, you hold the bat wrong, and they start holding it. I said, no, this is called a trademark. You have to hold it this way. It's not an Easton, or it's not whatever where you can just grab it.
Yeah.
Now, I know that sounds finite, but it's very important. Most good scouts today, or mostly all of them, I shouldn't say good, I don't want to discern between good and bad. They've got a box of bats in the trunk of their car. And they've got Major League Baseballs in the trunk of their car, so when they go work out, this is a Major League Baseball with its seams. This is not a college baseball that feels like this.
Oh, that's another thing, that the ball itself. Do you think the ball is
this is a true,
today?
No, I'll tell you one more thing. It's a true story. In 2003, or I think it was 2002 or 3. I can't remember what. The Reds took Ryan Wagner first at the University of Houston. I can't believe I can't remember what year it was. It's all run together. That's when the seams were raised in the college ball. It's a different ball, different manufacturer. Ryan Wagner had an unbelievable power slider at that time, about an 89-mile-an-hour slider and a boring fastball that he could also accelerate it and elevate it. And I remember us scouts were talking, and I told one scout, I said, hey, make sure when you go talk to him, you give him a major league ball. And Ryan grabbed the ball and went, oh, this is different. So the power breaking ball in those days, because the raised seams, how do I grip it? What's the feel? It's a different game. And I think one of the greatest impactful things we can do is take the game that we're watching across the board to create it equal on the tools we use. Every ball at every level should be the same, as well as every bat. We can't be living in the world we live in, this free society and these economic advantages, and say, well, we can't afford to give wood bats up. What? Are you kidding me? I don't get it.
I don't either. That you would think just for the betterment of the game, just for nothing else, you could see that Just make it easy to.
On a humorous side, Ralph, it kind of reminds me when Clark Griswold went to pick up the new car, and the car wasn't there, but he drove home the family truckster thinking it was the same thing. It was not the same thing. No, I mean, come on. These are the things that the fans have to understand, which is a change in development. We need the ball to be the same and the bat to be the same. Is that scientific? Right. Is that stats?
No, that's pretty simple. It's not all that complicated, too.
You know what it's like for a kid to go, here, I'm having a workout, here are the bats, and the kid starts picking up the bats and they start holding them and they start looking for the lightest one because they've been swinging a 28-ounce bat in college. We don't make 28-ounce wooden bats.
No.
Unless you're Tony Gwynn that gets one specially made. Because he can hit, Tony Gwynn could hit with a Q-tip. He's different. How much does this bat weigh? Oh, it's a 34, 33. Oh, okay. And the same guy can't hit the ball out of the infield.
Right, because he's not brought up with it.
He's not brought up with it.
Yeah. Well, Ellie Howard, speaking of that, he developed, and Wayne Unger on this station named his show after it, Weighted Donuts. That was innovative. The metal donut that you put on the bat that makes it weigh more, and then you take it off and you get up, and it's like you're swinging a lighter bat. Is that used in the minors as well?
I'm not really sure what's used in the minors. The greatest hitter that ever lived, Ted Williams, was at the academy when I was a young kid. We talked about this last week, and it's been videotaped. About a 2-hour DVD I have that, it's no one's ever seen, and Ted talks hitting. Well, the only way to get the feel of the bat and to more or less train the bat, train your swing, and I know this is going to get really scientific, but I want to know this question. I want to know this answer right now. This would be a poll question for all fans to ask when they go to the game, to ask their favorite player when he was coming up today, or to ask this question. How many times a day do you go into your backyard or when you go to practice, how many times a day do you swing the bat? So we get on the tee box, Ralph and Mert, and we take a few practice swings and we tee it up and hit it. So on an average of 18 holes, we probably take our driver out X number of times. We probably take 40 practice swings. If I was to ask you, so Ralph, I need you to go in your backyard with your bat, and I need you to get in your stance and act like somebody's pitching to you, and I want you to turn it loose 20 times. 2-0 fastball over here, 2-0 fastball down and in, a mistake. Play the game in your head and turn it loose. And swing the bat. Swing it in air. I guarantee you that 98% of the kids today have never even thought about doing that.
Right.
How do you get used to a bat? You know what the guys would do in the golden era? They would feel it, get it in their hands, bob it up and down, test the weight of it, get it, and then they would go swing it at nothing but air. It was a natural course of action. I'm going to go swing this bat.
Right.
I guarantee you that you want to learn how to swing a bat, go swing it at the same spot and visualize something right out here or right in here and swing it full. When you're loose, try to swing it 90% and better. You can't get to 20 swings without being worn out. But these kids will go hit off the tee for an hour, or go have someone soft toss them for 30 minutes and swing and swing and swing and swing and swing and swing and do nothing and accomplish nothing.
Right.
That's how they felt the bat. The hitters felt the bat. And they could, and then remember the terminology? They could whistle it through the strike zone and hear it. Boom.
Yeah.
There's air. Oh, that feels good, man. I like this one. Oh, yeah.
Jim, you mentioned that your son played. Do you have a son? Did he play ball?
I have 3 sons and 2 daughters. Probably the most gifted baseball player son was my middle son, and he played a couple of years as a very young boy. But like most kids, I found out with a mind that was inquisitive, baseball was very, very boring. So
okay.
I never pushed baseball on my kids to play. I pushed them to pursue the things that they believed in they wanted to pursue.
Good dad.
So there's no baseball in my family.
What'd you pass on from your dad to them? Anything that comes to mind?
Well, there's a couple things I would say. You only have one chance at this thing called life, and you can't hit pause and you can't hit redo and edit. You're going to have a handful of opportunities in life, and make sure you put your hands around those opportunities, explore them and pursue them, and do the best you can to discover your own talents. And that's what I pass along to my kids. So here's my sports. You ready for this one? So my sports in my 5 kids include taekwondo, basketball, soccer, volleyball, football, and about 5 minutes of baseball as a player for one of my kids.
Okay.
That's it. It's very, if you have that desire and you want to play baseball, you'll do it. If not, you'll do something else. I don't regret. I get that question. Hey, how many of your sons play baseball? Oh, none. Well, and by the way, there's also bodybuilding competition in that as well with one of my sons. So it's across the board. I wanted them to pursue what excited them, athletically. And there's some golf in there.
On some level, they have to go out on their own and do it, the way they're going to do it, whatever it is. That, so much success from your dad and yourself, maybe they want to do it in something that they have a passion for.
Exactly. I wanted them to do what they love to do. And, what they love to do may not make them a millionaire now. It may make them very happy and make a living later. And I've always hoped every year since I got into the scouting industry that, the people involved in the draft that were on the other side and those who signed the contract weren't really deep down inside in it for the money.
Right.
Because you have to love this game as a player. You have to have unbelievable desire. Desire is rarely ever discussed, but you have to have the desire that says, I don't like losing. I don't accept failure. I will take care of myself and go to work tomorrow. I haven't arrived and I'm in the rookie league and I signed for $750,000 and I'm in the Gulf Coast League with everyone else, but I'm going to go tell the world on social media I got a brand new Escalade or a brand new pickup truck. You haven't arrived. There are people in St. Louis, in Seattle, and Kansas City that are waiting for you to arrive so they can see you. That's your responsibility. And you have to love the game. You have to love the game. You know, just like I love great steak and pasta, for example. You know, I love a lot of things. I love my kids. You have to love this game almost equally as you love mom and dad.
Yeah, they better
otherwise,
love it
it's
to ride
nothing.
the buses for all that time in the minors. They better love it.
Yeah, you better have a fact that I'm going to take you, I'm going to sign you, Mert, and I'm going to take you on an adventure. You've gone on family vacations, you've traveled. I'm going to take you to places that you've got to really have a map to find. I can't wait for you to get to Pulaski or Withville or Ogden or Jamestown.
Rockford.
Or Rockford, Lord.
Yeah.
Or Pittsfield in those days. I can't wait to take you to hear different accents, dialects, languages, and everything else. Are you ready to go? And by the way, you get to play baseball every day.
There you go.
That's my selling
And
point.
what did Roy Campanella say? You're a grown man, but you're playing a little boy's game. And there's got to be a little boy in you every day, no matter how old you are, to go
I think
play
I was
in the grass and the dirt. You're playing in the grass and the dirt. How cool is that?
I think I was 9 years old when I can't remember, 9 or 10 years old. No, 11. And Dad was scouting, and we were in Pittsburgh, and we went in the clubhouse, and we were talking to, I don't know if Al Oliver was there. We were talking to some of the players that he had signed or somewhere along those, and Willie Stargell was talking to me. And I'm 11 years old. And, of course, my father and Willie are having a baseball discussion about this, and this, and so forth. And Willie looks at me and goes, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to play baseball. And he said, do you understand respect? And the first thing that popped in my mind was, yeah, that means I have to, make sure I do what my parents and teacher says. And I said, yes. He goes, no. In baseball, respect means you never overestimate or underestimate the opposition. That's the greatest respect you can have. And I must have had some lost in the deer in the headlight look on my face, and he kind of chuckled and looked at my dad. And I remember that line to this day. And I think that's playing in the dirt, because the greatest thing about the game of baseball is that it really doesn't need anybody to fix it. It doesn't need anybody to tinker with it. You got to remember, it was just a few years ago, as we say, when baseball was going to eliminate a couple of teams. We were going to transition, and they weren't doing that. Can you imagine? And I sat in those drafts, potential drafts, and those meetings. Can you imagine what the fans of Tampa would never experienced, or Minnesota, or the teams that were, quote, small market, how are they going to make it? We need to do that. Those were the talks. This game cannot be tinkered with because it involves human performance and spirit. Just when you think, we've had a strike, or this team's really in bad shape, you look up and so-and-so's in first place. You can't. No one, so the point I'm trying to make, no one's bigger than the game. No one's smarter than the game. No one's idea is greater than the game. It's all about human performance, development, and improvement. That's all it is.
Yeah. Wow. Great show, Jim. You're terrific. And we're honored. I hope you'll come back and continue to come back. How about that?
Well, I love it. I appreciate it, and of course I will, because this is what I think. I'll leave you with this. This is what I grew up with. I grew up with baseball people getting together, over a meal or over the phone, and talking about the game. I think the saddest part of my career was probably towards the end of it, when the people and those close friends that I knew, grew up with, or grew up in the game with, were no longer with me, and it left a void. It was very tough to not say I want to call Brian, or I want to call Jeff, or I want to call Bill. They were gone. And that's what happens in this business, that the fans, should know that there are a lot of us diehards out there that really love the old, let's get together and talk stories. And the stories have nothing to do with us. It's just about the game, what we experience. Right. That's what we're passing along. And I want all the veteran baseball people out there to not look at this paradigm shift of, an intern or a video guy or the Ivy Leaguer coming in, because we have to give it away. We have to give it back to them if they will listen. Because that's how we keep the roots going. The crop is only as strong as its roots. And that's who we are.
What advice would you give to a low round draft choice that's coming in today and tomorrow? They're drafting guys. A low round draft choice. What advice would you give?
I would tell the low round draft choice, the only thing that separates you from anybody else is your level of desire. Nothing to do with your signing bonus. Secondly, you're going to be on a team again. And the greatest thing in the business world, in the world we live in, is team. Go on any job site, do any research, and team is mentioned at least 3 to 5 times. Last, everyone has the same amount of hours and minutes in each day. And I told my players this: do this as a favor to me. You get a chance to play pro ball? First, honor your family, honor your organization that signed you, and don't forget your scout. And be the first one there and the last one to leave, and always ask, what do I need to do to get better? That's simple.
Wow. Hey, you are, I'm going to tell you this, a chip off the old block. How about that?
The only thing we're missing, Ralph, is the fact that there's no more stadium in Medford, so we can't actually have a rendezvous and do the show.
I remember like it was yesterday. We're up the third. Your dugout was on the third base line.
That's correct.
Am I right? I sat there with your dad 33 years ago.
Now you got it.
All right. You'll keep coming back, I'm sure, because this is terrific for both of us. Mert,
enjoyed it, Jim. Enjoyed it, Ralph. Thanks.
Mert, grandfather you. I appreciate it. And I'll say this, and this was a Mets show too. I'll say this.
Well, one thing, Mert, how much running around in the dirt in Jackson Heights did we have?
What dirt?
The dirt in the grass.
Dirt.
We'd have to take our bicycle. Where did we go to play football in the grass? It was 3 miles.
down by Boulevard, by LaGuardia Airport, where Boulevard was.
Right. Yeah.
That was a grass field. We used to go down there every once in a while.
Yes, that's. But it wasn't that. It wasn't like it was where you grew up in the Jim. We had a tough time finding grass. Maybe that's why we loved the game.
We played on cement. Yeah.
Yeah. And,
so you know what you guys did? See, you guys did what every kid has to do when he loves something. You make the adjustment. So what? You can't slide in the street. You know how many stickball games were played in the streets? You know how many stickball games were played in driveways? You know how we always invented games? There was always a way to play the game of baseball, regardless.
Stoop ball, off the wall, wacko, this, that. We had all kinds of games. You're right, absolutely.
A lot of stickball, definitely a lot of stickball.
Yeah. A lot of stickball. I usually couldn't wait for someone to bust a broomstick, so we could have a new form of stickball. And if someone was, of that class of society that played tennis, they weren't using those tennis balls anymore. We're going to take a marker and put some seams on them to make them look like baseball and write on them. And we are going to invent games. I think it's so funny. The games we played with a stick or a broomstick and a tennis ball, scientists have now said, hey, let's trade that way and we'll sell it.
Right.
To make you a better hand-eye coordinated athlete.
Talking about games, do you remember Basket?
Basket, yes. Yeah, I remember that. It had the little levers, and it was a ping pong ball, and there was a basket on each side of the board, and the ball would roll around, fall in a slot, and you would flip
have to have a little
lever,
skill, a little
try
touch
to get a basket. Yeah,
a little bit of a touch, a little skill there. We were
used a stopwatch for the quarters.
Always playing games. Always playing games.
Oh yeah.
Hey,
always inventing a game.
I heard what I wanted to hear. I know Jim is having fun. I wanted to hear that Mert was enjoyed this one because you didn't get to say much. We're both just.
I do apologize to Mert for hogging all the oxygen in the fun.
No, we're taking it in.
Listening to your stories. You're the guy that
he did it all. Yeah, this is beautiful for me. Jim's got to know we were in the second grade together. We take the bus, Mert and I,
That's great.
from Jackson Heights to Flushing when we were 10. They let us do it alone. Maybe 9 and a half.
To the Y.
Right? To the Y.
Y. Union Street. Yeah, right.
That's right.
That's amazing. You know what's amazing too is that to get up into the city when I was scouting, to find a field somewhere, where Thomas Jefferson High School was playing, and to go see a brand of baseball that was at its roots. I think that's what happens in the city. And, I really haven't put my hands around this inner city baseball and this urban youth program and so forth. I really haven't studied it, so I can't really make a comment on it. I can only comment from what I witnessed as a scout, was that I could not wait to get in there. I could not wait, and this is, pre-GPS, I could not wait to find the field, and all of a sudden there was a field and somewhere, and we were playing. And there was a ton of talent on the field. And I really thought that would always take me back to the grassroots, just as it would be to, somewhere to a small high school in Albany, Georgia. And I think that's where you have to go.
What's interesting now, the city kid, because he doesn't grow up playing baseball and throwing a million pitches, has almost become a commodity for scouts now, for Major League Ball because he hasn't used it all up over the years with all these travel leagues and what have you. My arm is still fresh. I'm 71 years old because I just didn't get the weather. Didn't get the good weather. But that doesn't mean I still don't have a chance. What advice would you give me?
Well, how about this, Ralph?
Institution.
Ralph, how about this? Think about this. How come we haven't come up with an idea, since everyone has access at some way or another to communicate with the world? How come we, as a baseball industry, haven't come up with an idea yet that says, I want to hear from everyone who plays the game and loves it, who cannot afford to play travel baseball. Where are you and how can I see you play and can I work you out? And if you play 2 sports or more, please let me know. I would really enjoy seeing you play football at, trying to say this and not, go places in our political world. I would love to come see you play football at XYZ High School, and, I know you don't have $4,000 to go play every weekend for 3 months in the fall. But can I come see you play football because I can still grade some athleticism doing that sport.
Or basketball.
Where is that database? Yeah, or track. Where is that database that say, you know what, I love baseball, I really wish I could play it? Because there's a reinforcement of love and belief in this. Can you imagine going to see a basketball game, a track meet, a football game, and seeing some unbelievable athleticism? And then, it wouldn't be a fair view, but getting a chance to say, hey, what are you doing on Sunday? I got some balls in the bat, you want to do something? And seeing some rawness and skills, and then saying, well, what are your options? Well, I may go to Georgia Southern and play football, but I played very little baseball. I would probably say that's a great thing to have in your back pocket. Yep. But keep trying to play baseball. Because baseball may be saying to you, we only have 40 rounds in a draft. And in those 40 rounds times 30 teams plus comp picks, we are more than likely going to draft baseball players only. You see where I'm going with this?
Right.
We are going to miss athletes.
Yeah.
We are going to miss some athletes, but I'm not going to keep that athlete from having a chance to go to a college and play the sport. As a matter of fact, I would have no problem reaching out to the athletic director and the coach saying, listen, I worked out your potential defensive back as a baseball player. He's got great tools. I don't know what your rules are, but if he can do it academically, I would hope that he would get a chance to go out in the spring and get a few at bats and run around the outfield and make some great catches. Why not?
There you go.
Why not give back?
The same is true in reverse. Look at a guy like Tebow, for instance, who comes up playing football and is now playing baseball.
And you know what? He wasn't a bad baseball player. He wasn't.
Right.
I mean, you talk to anybody that scouted him, it wasn't like, we're not going to go watch him. Of course you're going to go watch him. The most recent in this area is Cord Sandberg, who's got an athletic family. He's a great quarterback. Different, athletic quarterback, run throw type, whatever. I don't know the whole NFL thing. He's out playing baseball. I scouted him. I wanted to sign him because I thought the more he played baseball, the more chance the package had to get unwrapped. and he wasn't abused playing every day.
I'd like to keep this thing going forever. We're in a
all right. Let's wrap. Let's wrap up. We got to save some for the next
people. I just want to know, Jim, that as an old
yes.
salesman, I see a lot of, like you say, 20 swings a day. How about 20 calls a day? Same thing. It's
the same thing. You have to ask for the sale every day when you're a salesman. That's how I get paid. It's the same thing. How would I get paid as a hitter? I'm going to do something that I think means nothing, but I'm going to feel the bat. I'm going to have to do something to sell my talent, and how I sell my talent is develop it. I got to knock on doors, going to make 20 calls a day. I got to go to this meeting. I got to be in public. I got to be visual for 5 hours a day.
Well, that's a good way. I've never heard that said that way. That I've got to be visual, meeting people, saying hello, having a cup of coffee.
Of course.
Who do you
Hey, listen, I got a question for you, Ralph. You got to know somebody that's going to be buying or selling a house in the next few months. Think about it. Here are 3 cards. Boy, give me 3. Well, you can put one over here, you can throw away the other one, but if you start looking at the third one, it's very hard for the human psyche to not have a guilt trip and throw away all 3.
Right, good point. Or misplace all 3, yes.
Exactly.
Hey, thank you guys. Jim, we're thrilled to listen to you. And Mert, another great one.
Yes. Ralph, complete game from DeGrom tonight.
Whoa.
Did you hear that? 115 pitches.
Well, it's only 9:40, so he must have been extremely efficient and said, "Here, hit it," or not miss it.
Yeah, he was
on his game.
Very good.
Well,
yeah,
that means 4 games in a row, and we talked earlier in the week, because this is a Met show, when the cavalry comes back. Lugo, Mats,
there you go.
DeGrom coming. We needed that. DeGrom had pitched shit since he even 18 pitches.
Well, he must have had an extra day's rest, right? So
yeah,
probably.
Nice.
Well, you need that. You need to exercise your. You got to exercise your off days. You got to mix in some stuff. Plus, you get Big Boy back in the lineup too.
Yes.
I mean, you get Cespedes back in the lineup. That's like 3 people in one spot. It's just something that is incomprehensible.
Yeah.
And when you're managing and you have that type of bat in the lineup, and you're managing ahead 1 or 2 innings, you have to realize that you're not trying to skip him. You're trying to skip who's in front of him, who may get hot, and who's behind him. It's a different concept. It only takes one or 2 guys to get healthy, and things change drastically.
Yep.
Welcome to the booth, Jim Thrift.
Well, thanks, my friend Mert.
If we could talk a little more Mets once in a while, the 3 of us can make a great Mets show here.
Yeah, we could.
If I could only draw you out, Jim.
I know. I'll try not to be so reserved.
Yeah, try not to hold back like you do. I'll work. Mert will help you.
You know what the great thing I'll say to the Mets fans, though? In my brief time there, and they all see it, I don't know any New York sports fan that doesn't know who's where, who's doing what, and who's wearing what. I was very fortunate to establish a relationship with a current Major League manager named Clint Hurdle and a former Major League pitching coach named Bob Apodaca. This was at the Mets when I was managing. Bobby Floyd was the coordinator of instruction, and we had a blast. We had an absolute blast in Port St. Lucie, miles away from the Big Apple and all the media and all the attention and when are we going to win next and all of that. And it was great to try to develop those players. Oh, it was great to try to develop those players. I mean, all the all, from Anthony Young
Wow.
to Jeremy Burnett to Butch Husky to Edgardo Alfonso. I mean, we can go on. It was an absolute blast. They are dear friends still today. We still communicate because those days were absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Well, you can bring them on as guests, and you guys can go over some old stories. How about that?
I'd love to catch up and do that.
Beautiful. We'll plan on it. And this was tremendous. Mert and I both have big smiles on our faces. And
beautiful. That's the way we want to do it, guys.
Am I right, Mert?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's great. Enjoyed it very much.
All right. We'll be back next week. Plan on it, Jim.
I got it. Date and time.
Well,
we'll pick a club, pick a topic, and we'll get it out there.
Rest in peace.
You got it.
The West. Adam West died. Can't say that's an Al Plumpkin expression. He ends the shows. Same bat station. He's gone.
Same bat station.
You know what? We're here, and that's everything.
We are here, and we are hopefully telling the current fans and the future fans, the kids of the game, that, we want to tell them, I want to tell them, we're all here for them. And, it's something I have to give back.
Baseball's a microcosm of life. Indoor life's a microcosm of baseball. So
it is.
Over the course of time on the show, I see how it goes. You got three bright guys here. We're not just going to be talking about baseball. Our conversations will talk about real life because real life always comes back to baseball. And
it does.
This is terrific. I'm loving it. We'll catch you next week, guys. Everybody out there, keep on keeping on. That's what it's all about.
You got it.
Bye, gentlemen.
Thank you, guys. See you next week.